and welcome to Being Me. I'm Ruthie Tessler, one of the hosts of the BeingMe podcast, and my co-host, BeMe Youth Ambassador Juan Bendana. How is it going, Juan?
It's good. Here in Texas for a few days, it is about 107 degrees. Here, at least that's what it feels like. You know when you go outside and your skin is just burning even in the shade?
Well, I just got home from Providence for 4 weeks and the heat is hitting me like a train. I'm in Miami right now. I think we're in the same boat. It's pretty rough.
I'm moving to Miami in like a month and a half. I'm going there for a few months. So planning our trip because we're going to be moving sometime next year. But I'm like going to visit in a few months. And I heard it's like very hot there.
Hopefully you will be like missing the peak heat. But right now, first of all, I worked out for the first time in 4 weeks, pretty much.
Amazing.
And I worked out in a CrossFit style gym. Mm-hmm. So it was like kind of outdoors and I like could not breathe. It was humbling to say the least, but
yeah, it's the humidity in Miami that really gets you.
Yeah, it's just bad. Okay. So let's move on to our check-in. What are 3 things you would do if you were invisible?
A little icebreaker. See, it's an interesting question because immediately my mind jumps to go to the airport and sneak onto a plane that takes me like somewhere like across the world. Just a hilarious experience of getting on a plane when no one would know you were there.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. The second thing would be probably to go and sit courtside at a basketball game, but like sit at the player's bench. Just find an open seat and kind of just be there because I feel like that'd be really cool. What about you?
I think definitely go to a lot of places that you don't have tickets for and just like sneak in and get there. But I think I'd also just play some pranks on people. You know how someone like taps you on the wrong shoulder and it like disorients you? I'd do that, but like times a million because you're literally invisible. You could do whatever. Set clocks back, just like mess with people.
Just mess with all just paranormal activity level things.
Yeah. Freak people out. Like Ouija board type of stuff.
Are you into like scary movies, those like paranormal movies, those sorts of things? I feel like it's just some bad energy juju that's going to come back and haunt you for the rest of your life. I
like scary movies. I really not a big fan of jump scares. Otherwise, I think they're fun. I think scary movies, like, I don't know, as long as it's not at night and I'm with someone while I'm watching it, it's all good. I like that stuff. I've watched The Blackening this summer, which is funny, but it wasn't much of a horror movie. It was just like a play on horror movies, which I feel like all horror movies are now, making fun of horror movies. But besides that, how's your summer? What's going on?
It's good. It's been like quite a bit of travel with going around at different events and whatnot, and just trying to find time to spend with friends and all that sort of stuff, but also working on different projects and working on this book has been a big part of the summer, and am leaving to Europe for 2 weeks sort of to cap off the summer. So it's been good and have had quite a bit of time to spend with friends and hang in the city and all that sort of stuff. So it's been good in Toronto. But other than that, I feel like it has flown by in that I feel like it was like a few days ago that it was May. I feel like summer like really went quick this year, but I feel like that happens every year. So
it goes faster and faster as you get older.
Very much so. What about you?
Yeah.
You spent 4 weeks. You just came back from your trip. Yes.
Yes. I went to Brown for 4 weeks for a pre-college program. I took 2 classes.
Amazing.
It was great. A lot of the people there were younger, which kind of threw me off, but it was really fun. And I was planning on applying early decisions to Brown, and I don't think I will anymore. So it's good to know that now.
It wasn't like you had imagined in your head?
It was great over the summer, but the amount of walking I did, I don't think I could do that in the cold. I'm Floridian. I can't be walking uphill in the cold, in like the freezing cold weather for like half of the year. I don't think I could function.
Yeah.
It was fun when it was in the 80s. Otherwise, I'm seeing, I don't know if you know Dominic Fike, the artist, musician. I'm seeing him on Saturday in concert. Tickets were so cheap. I felt like I had to do it, even though like I'm not really a fan. One of my best friends is, so we're going together. I can't wait. I haven't seen her all
That's
summer
awesome.
either. So very excited. But other than that, music, besides Dominic Fike, music have you been listening to?
One thing over the summer, I feel like I haven't been to any like concerts or anything like that, but I've been very much so New Music Fridays and Discover Weekly and Release Radar. I'm very much so a Spotify baby. So those 3 playlists is like that very much so informs what I'm listening to. And I will just go to the most updated songs from those playlists. And I was talking to a few friends about this. I feel like I have no good, when you feel like you have no good music on your playlists and like even going to the gym or throwing on Spotify, you just keep on skipping. So I felt like I was doing quite a bit of. And in terms of watching over the summer, I feel like we have to talk about the whole like Barbenheimer or like what's the other name for like Oppen Barbie? How they had like the double header of 50,000 people watched both movies the same day. And you hear about how if they were both playing at the same time, you heard about like the whole Barbie during the peak emotional moment of the movie was when the bomb was going off in Oppenheimer. Do you hear about that? Like certain theaters. So it was this like big thing that apparently when you had Barbie and Oppenheimer playing at the same time, they were playing at 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. It lined up so that when the emotional moment in Barbie, disclaimer, I've not seen Barbie, I've seen Oppenheimer, but basically the emotional climax of Barbie, you could hear the bomb that went off in Oppenheimer in the theater. So it kind of like ruined the moment for some people. It was just such a random pairing with those two coming out on the same day.
I want to watch both of them, and I haven't watched either of them yet, which is crazy, but I got home.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go next week and see Barbie for sure. Probably going to put on a pink dress and head over to the movie.
Do the whole thing. I feel like I should see Barbie. So Oppenheimer, as a disclaimer, you really have to prepare yourself to like sit for 3 hours. It is a long movie and I won't spoil it, but you should definitely go see it. It's good, but it wasn't Avatar or Change Your Life good, in my opinion.
Right now, all I know about it is that a bomb goes off. That's what you just told me. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But I'll watch it. I'll watch it for sure. Moving on, we have some questions from BeMe Teens that I would love to get answered. Liv is asking what advice you have for seniors in high school.
Ooh, what advice do I have for seniors in high school? I think when it comes to transition in any phase of life, especially going into a new chapter, especially in the times that we're living in right now, it can be super scary. And it can feel like there is so much happening and that the future is unpredictable, and unpredictable oftentimes is associated with scary. And sometimes people can feel like that's daunting. And even though we can't predict the future, we can prepare for it. So I think the best advice for someone that is a senior that is stepping into their next phase, whether that is post-secondary, whether that is college, university, straight into work, whatever it may be, I think the most important thing is understanding that your next step doesn't need to be your final step. Because I feel like so often people are like, well, if I pick this school, if I go to Brown, if I pick this thing, that's going to be my life forever until I'm 65. And that is never how things work, especially now. So it isn't that your next step is going to be your final step. Your next step is a step, but you want to make sure that you don't stay static and do nothing. Because I feel like hesitation is really what holds a lot of people back from being the kind of person that they ultimately want to become. And people hesitate and they're like, oh, well, should I do this? Or should I go here? Or should I take a gap year? And I'm really confused. And the best decision is the one that you make.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm getting that a lot from my friends and myself. I am a rising senior, and it's tough because with college apps being more competitive than they ever have been, and most of us wanting to go to university after high school, we're all like freaking out and trying to get our summer work done. And I'm in the IB program, so I have a lot of essays to write for school, and I have to write all my supplementals and my Common App essay. And I've been away for 4 weeks, so I have to do that now. And it's a lot. And just trying to tell myself that wherever I end up is where I'm meant to end up, and it's going to be the best 4 years of my life wherever I go. So like, I'm not.
And I think that's the perfect mindset.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to freak out about going to an Ivy or anything because like I'll have fun wherever I go and I'll make a good decision. And I think everyone just has to remind themselves that it's not the end of the world if you don't get into your number one school.
And understand that you're never going to have all of the variables and all of the information to make the best decision. It is just a decision to make right now to go towards something. And that next step, that next year, if you don't like where you are in a certain aspect of your life or area, what's amazing about the human experience is that you can just change it and you can do something else and you can transition and you can, like the average college student changes their major 4 times. Average.
Yeah. And it's also like asking an 18-year-old to make the biggest decision of their life, what they're going to do for work is insane.
Yeah.
Like insane. It doesn't make sense. And I'm a rare case. I feel like I know I want to be a vet one day and I feel like I know I want to do that. But I feel like that's not what most people, what their mindsets are at 17 is, oh, I know I'm going to do this. I have a plan for my next 10 years. That's not normal. And I understand that.
No. And what that actually assumes is that you're going to be the same person in 10 years, which you're not.
Yeah.
Because everyone changes. So trying to say, this is my life's plan for the next decade of my life when you're 18 or 19 or 20 presupposes that you know exactly the kind of person that you're going to be when you're 30, which is just not the case for anyone. So I think it's really important to be present in your life where you are now and not try and cement where you're going to be in 7 years because you, along with everyone else, has no idea what that's going to look like. No clue.
I have people asking me, like, where do I think I'm going to live after college? And I'm like, how am I supposed to know where I'm going to live after college? I would like to stay somewhere warm-ish, and that's all I know. But I don't know how I'm supposed to think about that right now at 17 years old before I've even been to school. And, like, what if I'm with someone who also sways my decision when I'm 22? What if I'm in a relationship?
Like, that is typically what influences most people's living situation. In that, for me, born and raised in Canada, in Toronto, met my now fiance Gabby in California, and we're this next year in 2024 going to be moving to Miami, moving to Florida. If you were to ask me when I was 21, where do you think you'll be living in Miami, Florida? No, I don't. How on earth would I do that as a Canadian? So like, I totally agree with that you have no idea where you're going to end up.
Yeah. The whole fiance thing. Amir is asking how to ask someone on a date, and you seem like you would know. So,
oh, Amir, I have had my fair share of absolute buckles in terms of asking people on dates. So I can tell you exactly how to and not to do that. I find that especially in the time that we're living in right now, people have never been more socially awkward when it comes to relationships because we are so out of practice. And with the rise of dating apps and all of these different things, people haven't needed to meet in person or say hi to someone at a coffee shop or on campus or at school. Like, we haven't needed to really do that because of technology, which is, for better or worse, just the evolution of where we're at. So I think the best way to ask someone on a date is with your words and saying, hey, would you like to go out sometime? It's literally as easy and as simple as that is someone that I'm interested in getting to know. That is someone that I kind of want to see. And let me go up to them and start the conversation and say hi. If they reject you, that's fine. If they reject you, that's the thing. Most people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do it because I'm going to get rejected. Well, you not saying anything is actually you rejecting yourself from the opportunity. So, yeah, I feel like that's what trips so many people up about that. It's like, yeah, people are going to reject you. That's going to happen.
People are going to reject you. You're going to reject people. And
exactly.
Chances are they're not thinking of you after they say, oh, sorry. Like, you're embarrassed, but they don't care. And you move on and it's not a big deal. And
no, people aren't thinking of you.
People don't care.
You were so right. You nailed it. People aren't thinking of you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just wrapping my head around this because I hear people say it all the time. Like, you think everyone's looking at you and everyone else thinks the same thing. Like, oh, is everyone looking at me? I'm so scared. But you have to just get over that and go for what you want because no one else cares.
They care about themselves.
Yeah, no one else cares about what you're feeling or if you feel embarrassed. No one thinks like that. No one thinks you're embarrassed because they don't see it. So to just ask for what I want, even with my friends, like if I ask for something and they say no, I used to be like, I'm not going to ask because what if they say no? And now it's like, I just ask because like, why not? And they say no, they say no.
I heard this somewhere. I forget where. This is not my quote and I'm not sure whose it is, but that they represented sort of no, the word no, as next opportunity. In that when someone tells you no, it's just the next opportunity. Okay, let me move on. And there's something that all of us experience, and it's a phenomenon in psychology called the spotlight effect, which basically suggests that we think, as human beings, we think people are looking at us and thinking of us like there's this metaphorical spotlight on us more than they actually are. When people really have a spotlight on themselves and thinking about their own insecurities, dreams, goals, desires, things they are after, they have no time to think about you and I.
They're too busy thinking about themselves.
They'll judge you a bit. Yeah, they'll judge you a little bit, but they're judging themselves way more.
They'll think about you for a second and then go back to thinking about themselves. So
yes,
just got to be a little more carefree, a little less anxious about anything. And that brings me to the next question. Tiger is asking, how do I deal with test anxiety?
How do I deal with test anxiety? Good question. I think it's twofold. Number one is give it a better label. See, anxiety and excitement are actually the same chemical process in the brain. It's just a different label that we give it. So instead of I'm super anxious about this test, I'm really excited to crush this. I'm really excited to do well in this. And the second is that feeling anxious or nervous is natural. That is not a wrong feeling. That is not something that you need to avoid or eliminate. But instead, you can prepare for that so diligently, so consistently that when you show up to that moment, it's not that you're not anxious or nervous or feel like you're not, but now you're just, there's a layer of preparation. And I find that when someone is feeling, and especially has test anxiety or has anxiety for a presentation or something that's coming up, sometimes people will just check out and they'll say, well, okay, this is super scary. So then they don't prepare. And then they feel even more anxious of the fact that they're not prepared. So like, number one is give it a better label and understand that, yeah, okay, you're anxious, but then be excited. Then look forward to the test. And then number two is be overly prepared so that when you get to the moment, you rise to the occasion as opposed to crumbling under the pressure.
If you're talking about SAT and ACT, there's usually going to be another chance to get it right if you mess up the first time. And you have to just think also, especially with the way schools are now, applications, most schools are test optional and they don't really care about your test scores anymore. So you have to just say, I'm going to do my best. And my best doesn't have to be as good as the person next to me. It just has to be the best I can do. And
totally,
it's going to be fine. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And with other tests, again, your one test score, your final for this one class or your AP score, it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much as you think it does. So you just have to like do it. Just take the test, do your best.
Love that.
Last question we have, Ali is asking about leaving home for college and how to deal with being homesick, missing her parents and friends.
Great question, because that's something that I feel like you will run up against in a new environment, being in dorms, or maybe there's so much novelty and newness. Sometimes you just crave and like miss that feeling of home and that feeling of being around people that you're familiar with and your family and your friends. I think the best way is to sort of bring them along with you. And that doesn't necessarily mean bring your entire family to live with you at the dorm. That means that even right off the bat for when you go to school, make sure that you have time that is pre-scheduled in your week to FaceTime and to call and to text and to anchor towards when you're going home next. So you have to, we as humans, we need to have something to look forward to. We need to have something that we can anticipate. And when you anticipate something and you're excited about something and look forward to something, it's actually been shown that you bring those feelings into the present moment. So let's say you're going off to school in August or September and you're there and you feel super homesick and you feel like you miss your parents and you want to be back. Then Plan on when you're going back to visit home. Plan that trip. Schedule the flight. Schedule the drive. Have something to anchor to look forward to. That's the first thing. And the second thing is to make sure to FaceTime. And the fact that we have tech that can literally just through a screen, we can go on Zoom, go on FaceTime, and talk to the people and connect with them, I think is the best part of the times that we're living in right now. So I would say make time for them, and then also schedule the time that you will see them, either you going back home or them coming to visit you on campus, and schedule that so you have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I was gone for literally only like a month from my family, and I'd never been homesick. I go away every summer, but miss my family so much. I would find myself like when I went to the gym, when I just went on a long walk in Providence, I would be walking alone. I would have my headphones on. I would call my moms and I would talk to them for 10 minutes. And it was just like always really nice. Just like when you have an opportunity to be like, hey, let me just call my moms. Let me just call my family. I have nothing else to do. And
totally,
they would always pick up. They were excited. So just make time. If you don't want to go without talking to them, then don't. There's going to be little increments of time. If you're walking to class, if you're like getting ready to shower, if just anything, you always have a few minutes.
Totally.
Let's move on to some back to school advice. Do you have any advice for people for meeting new people and just getting back to school?
Yeah, I think when it comes to meeting new people, especially getting back into the building and both teachers and friends and people that you've never met or people that seem way different, the number one thing is going to be volume. And not like screaming at people, but like the amount of people you say hi to. Because I think building new relationships or meeting new people, the very beginning, at the start, it is terrifying. The first person you say hi to is super scary. You feel like they're going to reject you. You feel like they're not going to like you. They're going to find you boring, and then they're going to want to move on. But then person number 2 isn't that scary. Then person number 3 is actually easier. And then person number 4 actually knows person number 1. And like, then it becomes easier and easier and easier. So I think the name of the game when it comes to meeting new people is the amount of people, the quantity of people you're saying hi to, and just commit to, I'm going to say hi to 5 new people a day. I'm going to commit to saying hi to 5 new people every single day. As scary as it is, as terrifying as it may be, I'm going to say hi to 5 new people. And I think that's the best way to meet new people and build those new relationships.
Yeah. Even like meeting new teachers, I think just make a personal connection with anyone and remember everyone's name and just be really bubbly with everyone. People like that when they meet a new person. Yeah.
And also like being interested. I feel like there's so much emphasis on being interesting. People do not care how interesting you are until they know how interested you are in them. People like people that are interested in them. So if you want to be that person that is just like a people magnet and like attracts new people, and some people you talk to them and they're like, I don't know what it is about that person, I just really like them. Ask great questions. Be interested in what the other person is into, what they like, what they're passionate about, where they're from. All those things really help you like solidify those relationships.
Yeah, and brownie points if you can bring it back up in later conversation. So what about starting off the school year and setting a good tone for school year?
Ooh, I think everyone has really good reasons to feel kind of off track, to be lazy, to procrastinate, to start the year on the wrong foot, all those things. We all have really good reasons. We're out of practice, we're out of touch, we're not used to it, etc. I think people need to change their reasons and trade their reasons for rituals, meaning have a great routine that you commit to every single day, whether it's a morning routine that's like 10 or 15 minutes. Like, I'm going to go do a workout, even if it is 10 burpees, I'm going to get my energy right. I'm going to make sure that I take some time before school to journal because I know that's going to get kind of my mindset right. That's going to get me in the right headspace. I am going to not sit in front of this TV and aimlessly watch Netflix for 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day when the average American spends 1 to 2 hours in front of a TV every single day, which if you do the math, that's over a month of being awake a year. So I think the best way to start the year off on the right foot is to be wildly intentional with how you use your time and ask the question of, is this something that the best version of me, that the person that I actually want to be, is this what they'd be doing? And what kind of person, what kind of habits do they have? Because I think the beginning of the school year is sort of that reset moment, that New Year's resolution moment that a lot of people have. And it's such a great opportunity to capitalize on that and use that effectively.
For me, being a rising senior, I'm anticipating a pretty rough few months when I start school, even before I start school. And then hopefully it dies down and then picks back up again for finals. So do you have any advice for the class of 24 on managing senior stress?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to not predict a negative future, even though it may be chaos, even though it may be just absolute insanity. And I found myself doing this too, where I'd be like, this year is going to be insane. It's going to be the worst year ever. It's going to be so hard. And all of these different things. Maybe that's true, but maybe it's not. And we actually install negative prediction machines into the way that we think of, this is going to be a terrible year. Well, how do you know? Well, this is going to be really hard. Are you sure? Well, there's going to be so much work and I'm not going to have any time. Okay. So then what typically happens is it kind of manifests into our life and into our experience of life where, yes, senior year is going to be stressful. It could be filled with stress, but we don't need to be a stressed person during it. See, there's different types of stress. There is traditional stress, but there's also EU stress. Literally the letter E, U,
we
stress.
talked about this. Yeah.
That is the good kind of stress. So I think that it is being intentional of being this is good. There's a lot of pressure this year. This is kind of in the game of high school. This is the fourth quarter. Games are won and lost in the fourth quarter. So how am I going to be prepared? And how am I going to be strategic with my stress and be oh, okay, yeah, that's super stressful, but I'm also really engaged with it. Instead of, this is super stressful, so I'm going to check out and go hang out with friends and not do the work. So I think it's using the stress and leveraging the stress to your advantage and understanding that no pressure, no diamonds.
Yeah. I think that being stressed, like you said last month, is a privilege. And it's very beneficial to sometimes push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think one of the tools I use the most with managing my stress is having something to look forward to. And we talked about this earlier in the podcast. Anticipating fun things helps you in the moment. And if I'm oh, I have this really stressful test coming up, or I have an essay deadline, I'm so stressed, I don't know what to do. Oh, but I have a party in 2 weeks that I'm really excited for. Or I have a concert or a trip you're really excited for, going on a trip in a month. And just keep yourself motivated for that is just it's a good tool.
Yeah, it creates a level of energy that anticipation is something that brings those positive feelings into the present moment. And it makes you feel all of those things right now. And it's literally a psychological hack that you can use to just be I want to feel a little better. I want to feel a little more engaged. I want to feel a little more excited. Okay, do that through using strategic excitement to get you there. So I totally agree. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the things with motivation is, yes, I'm going to be fine wherever I end up for college. But does that mean oh, if I can go anywhere for college, what's the point of even trying? And you still have to remember to be your best self and to just push through and do whatever you can in your power to just work hard. But don't make it your whole life. Have some balance. That's important.
And to be in motion too. To your point, it's a lot of times people think and they wait for motivation to strike them like a bolt of lightning, when that is literally never how it works or never how it happens. It is much easier to act your way into feeling motivated than to motivate yourself into taking action.
So we have to wrap up, but you can always find some more tips from Juan and some BeMe coaches in the BeMe app. And you can download this app on Google Play or in the App Store. So you should definitely check it out. It's great. And yeah, so this has been a great conversation. And thanks for all the back to school advice, Juan.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And, until next time, my name is Juan Bendana and my co-host Ruthie and our podcast producer. Shout out to Derek, reminding you to keep being you. And together, let's make this school year the best year ever.
The BeMe podcast is a BeMe Studios production for BeMe Health.